Can you believe that in the present day, there are some people playing Civ without mods? If you're not juicing your CPU to the gills running 25 instances of the North Macedonian Leader Pack foot enlargement mod, what are you doing with your life? Mods are absolutely essential for Civ fans because they allow us to broaden our horizons and pretend that we've played games that we have not actually played, like Alpha Centauri, or XCOM, or Heroes of Might and Magic 3? Wait, what am I looking at? My whole life is a fever dream. In fact, I'd even recommend mods in place of trying any other strategy game, because other games are scary. And why would you be playing them when you could just be playing Civ? I'll be ranking what are, in my opinion, the 6 most essential mods in the series, but before we continue, I think I should make it clear to you what mods are not going to be included on this list. Across the franchise, there have been an abundance of total overhaul mods where the primary stated goal is just to simply have more stuff. More units, more wonders, more buildings, more civs, etc. Instead of a sleek, readable tech tree, you have a tech tree that looks like this. This everything in the kitchen sink approach was really popular for Civ 3 and Civ 4 for some reason. By Civ 5 and 6, things seem to be a bit more focused. Individual mods will add wonders or change interaction with barbarians and just do that one thing, instead of slamming everything you can think of together into one package. Examples of this style of mod include Double Your Pleasure, Civ Rise and Rule, Civ 3's 2021 expansion, CCM 3, Caveman to Cosmos, Realism Invictus, Quote Capita, etc. I will put links in the description in case I've criticized them in a way that you think is kind of cool. Many of these mods are popular, monumental achievements. I do have substantial issues with them, though. A lot of them add oddly specific questionable stuff. We've talked before about LecMod and We the People on this, but I actually had to rewrite this part of the script because Caveman to Cosmos is way worse than I remembered. Minority rights is a prerequisite for the tech that unlocks the meth resource. That resource allows you to build street gangs, which will increase your insidiousness by 7.5%. Some of these overhaul mods will leave you very confused, wondering how a 30-year-old game can use as much RAM as Google Chrome with 50 tabs open. And most of them prioritize quantity of assets over quality or cohesion. But the principal reason that I don't like these mods is just that they're not necessary. I like quicker games. When I'm polishing off a domination victory, a tear does not come to my eye like I'm some empty-nested helicopter parent who lives vicariously through the accomplishments of his children. Instead, when I actually finish a game, I feel like a burden has been lifted off my back. No matter what entry in the franchise, a game of Civilization is epic enough already. With one exception, this will be item number 6 on our list. We the People is a mod created for the Civ 4 port of Colonization, and unlike the mainline Civilization games, Colonization does actually kind of get stale after you've played it a few times. There are only 4 European civs, there are only 16 trade goods, and Europe will boycott some of them, making them useless. We the People has 99 different trade goods. I can't remember if this was an exaggeration or not, I'll have it flash on screen, but that's certainly how it felt. I also like the custom events and storytelling pop-ups, and the combat has more dimensions to it. Point being, the original game was lacking, and the world often felt kind of hollow. The principal focus was just adding more stuff, and they certainly went overboard here, but this version of Colonization has a more living, breathing world, and more variation from game to game. If you need one reason to play this, it allows you to harvest yields from the whole big fat cross, not just the 8 tiles directly adjacent to the city, so your cities can become more versatile metropolises, and you're not locked into doing a really awkward version of Infinite City Sprawl. This is a mod that I would recommend. Next, I'd like to talk about Civ 2. This game had a dedicated, imaginative, and frankly, bizarre modding scene, but a lot of it was held back by limitations of the game itself. The game really limits you to stuff that's cloned from Civ 2. You can't make any custom wonders, for example. Since there's only so much stuff you can do with the mechanics, a good scenario for Civ 2 really needs to nail the custom map, the scripting, and the flavor. So that's why my number 5 pick is the Heroes of Might and Magic 2 mod for this game. Requested by the legendary moderator Thunderfall from CFC 20 years ago, this mod really goes the extra mile for a bespoke match of the flavor from the source material. And I should stress, the pixel art sprites from the original Heroes 2 are, in my opinion, among the most beautiful game assets of all time. Not only did they add the units and the terrain with all the landmarks and features, they also brought in cutscenes as Wonder Movies, and even recreated the High Council with the characters from Heroes 2. The install is a little tricky. It was subject to some arbitrary limitations from Civ 2 itself. Again, the wonders are all reskinned stuff from the base game. Some of them make sense, like the Sailor's Astrolabe acting as the Great Lighthouse. Some of them are clever, like the Mass Bless spell Wonder, giving a cathedral in every city. On the other hand, you have the Book of Elements, which I'm just going to let the clip play. It's the Hoover Dam. Get it? Hydro elements? Whatever. Let's move on to number 4. My next pick will be the Conquest scenarios for Civilization 3. These are a series of 10 scenarios that cover most of recorded history, featuring custom maps, tech trees, and a lot of unique buildings, units, and wonders. They were packaged with an expansion pack for Civ 3. Now, other Civilization games have done that. They came packaged with a bunch of scenarios. But unlike Civ 2 and Civ 4, these scenarios were not just curated by the developers of Civ 3, they were designed and programmed by them from the ground up. As a result, the final product is a lot more polished. That is to say, in the Civ 3 version of the Napoleonic Wars, it does not require you to research robotics to build the Duke of Wellington. The editor in Civ 3 has a lot more flexibility than the one for Civ 2, and the buildings and wonders aren't total reskins. So for example, the port in the Middle Ages scenario acts as both a commercial dock and as a hospital. Obviously, a lot of fan-made mods make use of these tools too, but a lot of the options that you have in the editor and in-game only exist because they were programmed to do a particular thing in a particular conquest scenario. So for example, from what I can tell, city elimination was just included as a gimmick to simulate the collapse of the Roman Empire in the Fall of Rome scenario, but it is a key design tool, and to this day, half of the multiplayer mods we play make use of it. Because that's the thing. Modders making scenarios need to use the tools that they have, but when Firaxis was making the conquest scenarios for Civ 3, if the editor wasn't doing what they wanted it to do, they could just change the editor, or even the code for the whole game. Because of this advantage, each of the conquests have unique gimmicks that match the story that the scenarios are trying to tell. Like in Age of Discovery, you can produce treasure in North America, but when you try to bring the treasure home, your rivals can attack without declaring war, using the privateer unit. If they succeed, they get to capture the treasure that's on board and use it themselves. It's a really cool interaction between the gameplay and the storytelling, and the conquest scenarios are just full of that type of stuff. Also, the art assets here are beautiful. It's clear that the same artist used the same method to make the custom assets, so nothing feels jarring or out of place, which is not as low of a bar to clear as you might think. Escape from Zombie Island 2 is one of the best fan-made mods for Civ 3, and you can see the kind of incongruity that I was talking about here. Definitely check these scenarios out. You can just buy the game on Steam, and they're just ready to play fresh out of the box. Number 3 is Fall from Heaven 2. There's a linear trend here. From Civ 1 to Civ 3, each game gives better options and tools to the makers of scenarios and fan-made content. Civ 4 did not disappoint in that regard. They were able to tweak so many parameters that the game basically isn't Civ anymore if you change enough. This mod is a dark fantasy 4X RPG, and if you play it with the custom map script, it's more like a PvE adventure experience than PvP. The game is intricate, with all kinds of strange interactions. In this one save file, I was playing as the Lizardman faction, who rely heavily on synergy with wetland tiles, and I adopted the religion that turns my land into a frozen hellscape. Predictably, my people starved and my empire went to shit, but on the other hand, I got a religion-specific Flying Eagle hero unit, so I definitely came out on top. I have a whole video on this mod if you want to check out a full review, but if you want the highlights, it's got a magic system with 22 different schools of magic, and multiple tiers of spells for each school. It has massive PvE raid bosses. You can crawl dungeons and get loot. There's a card game. It's not exactly Triple Triad from Final Fantasy VIII, but I did get hooked and played 2 extra rounds while I was recording B-roll for this video. And some factions even allow a third ring of workable tiles around their cities, which fans of Civ 5 and 6 will definitely appreciate here. It has been forked numerous times, but Ashes of Erebus is the one I currently play, and that I'd recommend you check out. Their Discord server is really friendly, and there are a bunch of active modders and experienced players who are happy to answer any of your questions as you're learning the ropes. This mod is just more unique and higher quality than most actually competing 4X games, but unbelievably, there are still 2 entries that rank above it. Continuing on our journey through time, our number 2 pick is from Civilization V. The title in question is Vox Populi. Now, Civilization V is a strong but ultimately flawed game, and this is exactly what allows this mod to score so highly. It had rough work ahead of it, trying to untangle this mess, but it still ended up being a smash hit. For a good 30% of the most devoted fans of single-player Civ 5, this is the ultimate way to experience the game. Now, this is a scalding hot take that absolutely no one was asking for, and I doubt anyone will appreciate, but here we go. Vox Populi reminds me of Civilization 6. The complexity has increased. Differentiation between civs has increased. The game now showers you with bonuses at the start, and the game is now closer to being actually balanced. I've always liked Civ 5's culture trees. It's nice being able to use them knowing that all of the options are actually strong and viable. If I had to personally pick between the 2 games, I would probably go with Civ 6. I find the diplomacy system here leads to drawn-out wars, and the combat system in Civ 6 is more bursty, while this one is more grindy, and that hasn't changed with VP. But Vox Populi is better on paper. The global happiness here has been revamped, and it's much better than amenities in Civ 6. I like the tile yields, and unlike Civ 6, the AI is actually capable of playing this game. I don't know what wonders they worked, but if you want proof that AI actually can, in fact, handle 1 unit per tile, look no further. It is telling that the makers of this mod have taken Civ 5 and placed it shoulder to shoulder in quality with one of the most popular and critically acclaimed strategy games of all time. Alright, on the same subject, we've covered the earlier games now. Colonization through to Civ 5, we've taken a journey through time. But we are inching closer to the modern day and to the game that is home to the greatest mod from the entirety of the Civilization franchise. And that game is, of course, Civilization 4, with the mod Rise and Fall. Yes, let me make that clear to you. Civ 4 appears 3 times on this list. That's not a mistake. Each of the games offer different tools and experiences for modders, and some of them are vastly superior to others. Later games started hard-coding more things, and making mods now require access to proprietary software that most people don't have. Civ 4 was the sweet spot, and so it takes up half of this list. So this is Rise and Fall, not to be confused with Rise of Civilization, which was itself a legendary mod for Civilization 3. If you are a fan of True Start Earth maps, dear God, are you in for a treat. The map generation options here are astounding. You can play a map that's nearly identical to Earth, or you can pick a random map with varying degrees of Earth-likeness. This adds infinite replayability to a game type that everybody loves. And this creation deserves the number 1 spot. Ashes of Erebus could function as a solid standalone game. Vox Populi fixes one of the most popular games in the series. But Rise and Fall could be the prototype for a very strong, albeit faithful, sequel to Civilization 4. It has a ton of cool new mechanics, and by my count, at least half a dozen of them are somewhere between good and fantastic. Probably the most refreshing of the bunch is having Civ-specific victory conditions. So for example, as Carthage, I need to control coastal cities, gain access to dyes, and circumnavigate the world to win. This leads to dynamic games where you choose your Civ based on the playstyle that you're looking for, and where you don't need to grind out a million turns to reach a victory. And importantly, it forces you to roleplay as the Civ that you have chosen, rather than taking a generalist approach every game. The mechanics around emerging civs are also incredible. Each faction has a different start date, which vary a bit with the randomizer, but everybody's spawning into the same world. It just feels a lot more like human history. Empires rise and fall, some stand the test of time. It's not just a bunch of nations slowly gobbling each other up, and so the endgame doesn't feel as anticlimactic. It feels like it's living and breathing. It's actually kind of similar to the era switch system from Civ 7, only you're not faced with arbitrary cutoffs and resets. if you're winning, you can keep winning. This is an incredible scenario. If you haven't tried it, you need to check it out. And broadly, if you like creative, transformative mod work, buy and learn Civilization 4 if you do not already have it. And you're in luck, too, because it's easy to learn. I have a 14-minute long introduction tutorial. You can click on that right now if you want to see what the game is all about. Otherwise, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I don't need to tell you to comment with your favorite mod. I am sure that you will. Cheers, everybody. See you next time.